Hello, Allison Verhalen here, coming at you live for this week's Marketing Monday. And today I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects, the psychology of authority. If you're at all familiar with Milton's experiments, the obedience to authority, he created this experiment in the 1950s and 60s. Super famous. If you've taken any psychology courses, you've probably heard about this experiment because it's really, really famous. He was actually studying, trying to figure out, he wasn't directly studying Nazi Germany, but he was trying to figure out how you could possibly get an entire country to do all these horrendous things when you would normally ask someone on a one-on-one, like, how you would never do this, right? And they go, no, I'd never do this. And then you get a whole country to do it. And he goes, okay, clearly there's something going on here. So he did a bunch of studies where he had volunteers come in and told them there was someone in another room that they could hear, but they could not see. And the volunteer was instructed to administer a series of shocks to the person in the other room, and they could hear the person reacting to the shocks, and they were told to make the shock stronger and stronger and higher voltages, and they heard the person screaming and begging for them to stop and saying all these awful things, and they were told that they could quit at any time. There was no repercussions for quitting the experiment, but they had this official looking person in a white lab coat standing next to them telling them what to do, and they trusted that person implicitly and they went along with it. Most of the time. Not everyone did. There were some exceptions to the rule, but it was like 60 some percent. It was about 2/3 of the people who participated did go all the way to the end. Now, the person in the other room was an actor. They were not actually getting shocked. The volunteers had all this explained to them afterwards, so they could live with themselves and understand they were not actually doing all of these awful things. But that takes a toll on you, right? That it is a fascinating experiment that even when it's voluntary and you're told ahead of time, look, you can stop at any time. There's no repercussions here. It is so ingrained in us to do what we are told, especially when it comes to a person in a position of even just perceived authority. So what does that have to do with marketing, right? It has everything to do with marketing. Not that people will take every single thing you say at face value just because you have a position of authority, but they're much more likely to take what you say at face value if you have successfully positioned yourself as an authority in your industry. So how do we go about doing that? That sounds great. I can say from experience that having people who value my position and not only come up to me and pick my brain at networking events, but if they've been following me for a while and they've watched my videos and they've seen my stuff on, read my blog, maybe they've read my book, right? Then when it comes time and they're making that decision to whether or not to hire someone, who they're going to hire, it makes it much easier to convince them that, yes, they need to hire someone, and yes, they should hire me because they already see me as that authority in the industry. So how do you go about positioning yourself that way? Write a book. This is my book. It's kind of in the background, so you can't see, but this Content Marketing Made Easy by yours truly, Allison Verhalen, right? Seriously, what sounds better than, look, I literally wrote the book on the subject. Everyone loves being able to say that, right? And a lot of us say facetiously, oh, I could write a whole book on this subject. I actually, shortly after I published this, I was reading another book on marketing that had a little section on content marketing, and I was reading it going, oh, I could write the book on this. Oh, wait, I did. I did write a whole book on this. Nothing positions you in authority like being able to say, you literally wrote the book on the subject. You are an author. It's right there in the name, author and authority. Fun fact, both come from the same Latin root word, auctor, which has a bunch of meanings, including person who has weight or authority. So write a book, or again, get someone like me to help you write a book, because yes, it's daunting. Yes, it's a lot of work. it is worth it. It can be its own income stream, so there is that, but there's also just being able to say, look, I literally wrote the book on the subject. It's also a great way to get yourself into other positions of authority, namely on podcasts, on stages where you can speak at events in front of people and look very authoritative, right? A lot of people won't even talk to you unless you have a book. So get the book first, and then you can leverage that to get to those other positions of authority. So that's step one. Step two, get referrals, right? We all have that position where, we have, let's say, a doctor that we've been using since we were kids, and now they're retiring. And okay, now we need another doctor. Whom do you recommend? Assuming you can find someone in your network, right? That's a whole other thing I'm not going to get into. But the first place you're going to look is that doctor that you were dealing with previously. Whom do you recommend? Do you have anyone you can refer? Usually when they're leaving the business, they can say, yeah, they usually have one person in particular, if not a list of people they can refer you out to, say, hey, I'm not doing this anymore, but these people can help you out. I have a whole bunch of people I use to refer stuff to all the time, just in my network generally, but also specifically in marketing. I don't do web design or graphic design or social media or any of those other fun things, but I know a bunch of people who do. So if you need those recommendations, I can make those referrals for you. And when you get that referral, you already have that built-in trust, right? We know that people work with those they tend to know, like, and trust. And they tend to jump straight to trust if someone they already trust has recommended you and said, yes, this person is really good at what they do. Yes, this is the one you need to talk to about, fill in the blank, whatever it might be. Speaking of referrals, so improving your search rankings is another great way to position yourself as an authority. And I know this sounds kind of counterintuitive because, well, anyone can rank on Google. Well, no, because if anyone could rank on Google, we'd all be ranking on Google, right? And then it wouldn't mean anything. What it means is, first of all, that's also the next step for most of us. If we don't have someone in our friends, family circle, right, who can recommend whatever it is that we need, our next stop tends to be Google. So in a way, what happens is Google is referring us. And a lot of us trust Google for some things. Again, that's a whole other can of worms I don't want to get into. But when it comes to, Google does their homework. Google makes sure that when you're looking for content, they've done their homework to make sure that the people who wrote the content that they are showing you did their work. They're authorities in their industry. They know what they're talking about. They've written a whole bunch of information, created a whole bunch of content around this topic. And here's the specific content that answers your question. Google does a lot to continually do that again and again. And every time they update their algorithm, they're just getting better and better at figuring out what it is you're looking for, which content answers your question, which content is authoritative and trustworthy that answers your question. There is also Google's EEAT standards, expertise, authority, trustworthiness, and experience. That's the other E that they added recently. So authority is in there. So how does Google measure authority? Primarily backlinks. It's not the only way, because they do track your brand name everywhere. So even if people are talking about you on another website, but not giving you a link to your website, Google still counts that. Google is still going to go, okay, but people are using this brand, this website as a reference, saying, hey, go over here to find out more information about this. That positions you as a reference because other people are using you as a reference, which means they view you as an authority. And if Google likes those websites and trusts that they know what they're talking about, again, it's all about that trust, right? If people are getting recommended to you from people they already know, like, and trust, they're going to be much more likely to like and trust you right off the bat. Same with Google. These other websites have put in the work, have put in the time and the effort to build trust with Google. So if they're using you as an authority, then Google goes, oh, well, then they must know what they're talking about. That can also work against you when people with not so great websites use you as a reference. That's a whole other topic I've covered in another video, so I'm not going to go into it too deep into here, but you can check out my video on backlinks that I published not too long ago. Last but certainly not least, earned media. Um, Someone quoted you. Someone was writing a story about, I don't know, family law, as an example, right? And they wanted to get that expert opinion from someone who is down in the trenches, so to speak, actually working with these families, trying to solve this problem. They want to get a quote from this person, what it's like, what the challenges are, what the successes are, what people should be doing if they're, might find themselves in that situation, or they're trying to make sure they don't find themselves in a certain situation. They're going to go to an expert because that makes their story better, right? They're not just making this stuff up. They're not pulling it out of thin air. They're saying, no, this expert said such and such. Look, it's right over here. So they're definitely going to mention you and your brand. They will usually provide a backlink to your website as well, which Google loves. If you can get it from an authoritative source, absolutely take advantage of that. And then again, the real life people who are seeing your stuff are going to see that and go, oh, this person really knows what they're talking about because they were quoted in this article. They were a guest on this podcast, right? That's a big reason that I've been getting out there on podcasts, is because it's just a great way to get my name out there and get more people to recognize me. And again, position me as an authority in my industry, as well as network with other marketers, because it's always fun to get together with other marketers and geek out about marketing for half an hour to an hour. So earned media, getting on podcasts, reaching out, building those relationships with your local journalists at your local paper, with national papers if you can, with industry magazines. Where does it make sense for you to really consciously make that effort to get in there and build those relationships? And if you can't, or if you just don't have time, because that's not what you went into business to do, hire a PR firm. A good PR strategy, when well implemented, is excellent for your SEO and your overall brand recognition. So I highly, highly recommend you include that in your budget, getting a PR company to take care of that for you. So that is it. That is everything that I have for you today. If you want your very own copy of my book, Content Marketing Made Easy, that is over on Amazon. If you have any other questions, you can again, find out more information like this over on my website, AV, as in my initials, Allison Verhalen. That is avwritingservices.com. And you can reach me directly if you have any questions you want to ask. I'm always, always happy to answer those questions. You can reach me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. That's it. Have a great week and happy blogging, everyone.